So we will get our goat show today started in just a little bit. We are waiting on our judge. He got into some traffic on the way here, and so it may just be a moment or two before we get started. So as soon as we have a judge, we will try to get things started and rolling.
In just a few moments, we'll get our show started. We do have a judge now, so give us just a few minutes to get things squared away, and we'll get started in just a moment. Welcome to the 2026 Goat Show at the Washington County Fair. We're going to get started today. Our first class coming into the ring will be our Dairy Goat Weather class. We have two in this class. We'll have Bo Marcingill and Kale Miller. While they are getting started, I'm going to have our queens come over, our royalty come over, and I'm going to let them introduce themselves, say what their position is, who their parents are, and maybe where you go to school and what grade. You just turn that on.
Hello? Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Adeline Houston, and I am the 2026 Washington County Fair Queen. I'm the daughter of Michael and Sarah Houston of Wellman, and I will be a senior in the fall at Mid-Prairie High School, and I'm really looking forward to having a great week. So thank you, guys. Hello, everyone. I'm Avery Janacek, the 17-year-old daughter of Chris and Julie Janacek, and I'm going to be a senior at Mid-Prairie, and I'm the 2026 Washington County Princess.
Hi, everyone. My name is Sophia Putman. I'm the daughter of Cook and Sarah Putman. I'm going to be a senior at Mid-Prairie High School, and I am the 2026 Washington County Miss Congeniality.
Good afternoon. Sorry I'm a little bit late. Got held up behind an accident. It slowed me up a bit. Real quick, Vicki asked me to introduce myself. Troy Kane, reside in Algona, Iowa. So right up near the Minnesota border in north central Iowa. There I have reside with my wife Danielle. And then we got three kids, Cohen, Coda, and Cutter. Grew up kind of showing livestock. Currently, I run 5-star show goats. Kind of really cater to the show world. We run about 75, anywhere from 75 to 100 does. Everything is marketed, around the country in terms of show weathers and does. With that, we also have a cattle herd. And run about 20 ewes on the side too. So we stay pretty busy with that. As we get started in the show, we're kicking off here in our dairy weather class. 2 entries. I think both are very high quality. Definitely some differences. I'm opting with the young man's kind of paint weather here to start off. I think when you just get right up on top of this one, there's more genuine width there. That one's handles with a lot more just dimension and depth there over his loin edge. And you get in behind him, I think that one's the wider pin one that's more expressive down into his lower leg. The young man's a little brown weather there. Definitely giving up some in terms of weight. But I think that one probably has the advantage in terms of just skeletal build and the way he's put together. He's stronger in his top line, good on his feet and legs. Very, very nice class to start off our show. Let's go ahead and put our hands together for those two exhibitors.
The results of our first class in the ring today for our Dairy Weathers, we had our champion Dairy Weather being exhibited by Cale Miller of the Lime Creek Live Wires. He received a blue and a banner. Receiving second with a blue ribbon goes to Bo Marsingill of the Riverside Enterprises. The champion received an award that was sponsored by Dwayne and Vicki Fisher, along with a cash award by Dwayne and Vicki Fisher. The next class we'll have coming into the ring will be our crossbred weather class. We will have 3 coming into the ring for this class. We have Leighton Lichty of Crooked Creek. We have Toby Flynn of the Dutch Creek Flyers and Cale Miller of the Lime Creek Live Wires.
Really nice trio here in our Dairy Goat Cross class. The young man, kind of this gray colored one, uh, really kind of unique for having dairy influenced in him. I like how that one's built in terms of his skeleton, huge in terms of his foot and bone. His design's good. I think where that one also has an advantage for being the lightweight goat in the class, he touches back with some expression, and when you step right in behind him, that's the widest pin one that's just got the most dimension and turn down into his hip and down into his lower leg. I think a really nice individual. The young man's weather coming next. probably to the touch is more dimensional from his shoulder all the way back. I like that about him. I think that goat, though, is carrying a little extra condition in comparison to the goats on either side of him. And then as you study that one, he wants to play out from the top side of his skeleton down to the ground. We'd just like to make him a little bit wider in order to compete with the young man's that wins the class. And then we round out the class in third with kind of that smoke-colored, brownish tinged one. The really nice goat. I like that one in terms of his design, his levelness, his feet and legs are as good as any in the class. That one's just settling in with a little more dairy characteristic for being the heavyweight one. You get your hands on him and he touches back with the least amount of product down his top side, and that gets pretty evident when you step right in behind him. He's tucked up in his twist and just doesn't have the amount of leg. Very good trio. Once again, put your hands together for these three exhibitors.
The results of our crossbred weather class. We have first our champion receiving a purple going to Leighton Lichty of Crooked Creek. Second, reserve champion with a blue going to Toby Flynn of the Dutch Creek Flyers. And third with a blue going to Cale Miller of Lime Creek Live Wires. The banner for the champion crossbred weather was sponsored by Tyler and Paige Garles. Coming into the ring now, we have our first class of junior does. In this class, we have Camden Robertson, Teague Pepper, Hallie Heisdorfer, Sadie Brink, Benjamin Longbine, and Kinsey Thomas. We do want to say thank you to KCTC for their generous gift to live stream the shows. There is a link in the show program so you can tune in for other shows this week. We appreciate their generous support. Families and friends are now able to enjoy the shows also. We do want to recognize and thank Federation Bank for their sponsorship of the 4-H and FFA t-shirts that you see in the ring today.
As we kick off our breeding show, the young lady right here brings us a really nice doe that I think kind of floats to the top rather easily. Oh, sorry about that. I think this one kind of rises to the top rather quickly in my mind. As you get them out here and just study that one, she comes with the most width, is the best in terms of her overall rib design as being really round. You put your hands on her, and she kind of just overwhelms the contemporaries within this group in terms of the total product she has. I think just a very nice individual to go ahead and win this class. I think the one that suits her or follows her the most alike in type and kind is the young lady's little red doe. Kind of she's the little doe in the class, but I think really good built. Like that one, the way she ties her neck into the top of her shoulder, she's short bladed, still opens up into a really round rib. And I like that one in terms of her top line and out of her hip. When we set them into motion, I think that one's actually better in terms of her feet and legs than the one that wins that class. But in comparison, she just doesn't have near as much to her at this stage of the game. The young man coming there in third with the traditional mark doe. Here's one that, again, feet and legs is really good. When we set her into motion, she pulls herself together and is really good in terms of her overall design. I think in comparison to them top two, she's just not quite as smooth in the way she's built. She has a little more at the point of her shoulder, a little shorter and steeper out of her hip. We extend her and level her out there. I think she can rival the red one right above her. Then we get into a pair of kind of similar type of does. I prefer the young man's a little more chromed up doe here. I like this doe in terms of her body shape. She's probably better. She's better in terms of her rib design than the does on either side of her. I think just in comparison, that one lacks a little bit of the extra show ring look and added foot and bone that we have in the ones ahead of her. The young lady's coming next. This doe is really good from the side. She's level. I like that about her. She actually touches back with some true shape. But when you get right up on top of that one, she gets flatter in her rib design, flatter out of her hip, and just doesn't have that overall width that the ones above her. And then we round out the class, a really nice paint doe in her own right. I felt like this one is you just study this one in comparison to what's in the class. She gets a little off behind her shoulder. She's steeper out of her hip. And that one just, when you get your hands on her in terms of a meat goat, she just doesn't come with the added definition and expression right on the backside of her shoulder that we found in all the rest of the does in the class. Once again, a very, very good class. Those kids all deserve a big round of applause.
Coming into the ring now, we have our second class of junior does. The results from our first class, we had first with a purple going to Sadie Brink of the Washington Hustlers. Second with a blue to Camden Robertson of the Lime Creek Limelights. Third with a blue to Teague Pepper of Waco FFA. Fourth with a blue to Benjamin Longbine of Franklin Cubs. Fifth with a blue to Hallie Heisdorfer of Dutch Creek Flyers. Sixth with a blue to Kinsey Thomas of Washington FFA. Currently in the ring for our second class of junior does, we have Callie Brink, Riker Myers, William Longbine, Chloe Sexton, and Wyatt Wood. We hope that you will join us again at the fair on Thursday at the Lions Stage at 5 o'clock for special Hall of Fame recognition, State Fair Awards, and the Fair Favorite Bucket of Junk auction. Sculptures all started with identical buckets of junk and were created by area youth, family, and businesses. They are on display in the commercial building and exhibit building and will be up for auction on Thursday immediately following the awards at 5 o'clock. All proceeds go to sponsor Washington County 4-H enrollment fees, which currently make 4-H free for all 461 members and 150 Clover kids.
Really good class here, 1 all the way through 5, and I think a really high quality pair on the top end, and within this pair, I think there's give and take. It's literally coming down to where I place my preference, because I think one of them touches and has a little more topside shape, and the other one's better skeletally. If you know me or been around my program, I'm always going to go with the better skeleton one. I think when we pull this young ladies to the lead, that's where that one wins the class. She's just more athletic on both ends of her skeleton. And honestly, when she's on the move, I think that one pulls herself together even better than she does on the brace. I like that doe. I think she's more relaxed in her knee, better in the angle of her shoulder, and definitely more functional out of her hock. The young man's doe there in second. That one's wild looking and has some crazy out there pieces. I love that one's just added extension up through her front end, really shallow in terms of her chest floor. And when you get your hands on her, yeah, she does come with more dimension right there behind her shoulder than the one that wins the class. When we set that one into motion, she's not athletic enough in the way she moves out of her blade. She kind of wants to get out at her knee and come in at the ground. And then out of her hock, we need to see her more athletic and actually have use of her hock in order to get her up over the one ahead of her. Very, very nice doe there in the 2-hole. The young man's dapple doe coming next. Really complete type of a doe. I think that's what sorts her over the other 2 red paints here. I like that one in terms of her build and her design. She's round in terms of her rib shape, and I think in comparison to the 2 that follow her, that one wedges more correctly. She continuously gets wider from front to rear. I like that about her. And I think that one just, like I said, is more complete than the two that follow. The young lady's predominantly red one here in fourth. I like this one when you get your hands on her better than the two on either side of her in terms of the amount of dimension and shape right there over a rack. And as she works back, that one is bigger pinned and probably bigger hip than the other two. I think when you just get off and study that one, though, she gets a little bit longer about her blade, more opened in her shoulder. And then when we study that one's underline, she wants to wedge and run the opposite way. We need to drop her in her flank so she balances better. The young man's paint doe coming next probably does balance better than the doe right ahead of her. And this one is super sound on her feet and legs. I think in comparison, when you get into this stuff of competition, that one is just the flattest and narrowest in her makeup. We need to pull her apart, make her rounder in her body to get her off the bottom. Very, very good class. Once again, put your hands together for those 5 exhibitors.
Coming into the ring now for class 3 of our junior does. In this class, we have Graydon Wade, Trig Lee, Leighton Lichty, Callie Brink, Sadie Brink, and Isabel Litweiler. The results of our class 2 of junior does, we had first with a purple being exhibited by Callie Brink of the Washington Hustlers. We had second with a purple going to William Longbine of Highland FFA. Third with a blue to Riker Myers of Dutch Creek Flyers. Fourth with a blue to Chloe Sexton of the Highland FFA. And fifth with a blue to Wyatt Wood of the Riverside Ramblers. Immediately following the goat show today will be the Clover Kid Goat Show. Clover Kid participants have been mentored by goat showmen to learn more about the goat species. Please stick around and see the next generation getting involved in this department. Clover Kid participants in this class should get their show number from the extension office. New this year, the dairy goats will be shown tomorrow in the dairy show with the dairy cattle. Also, some of the animals from today's show will be sold at the livestock auction on Friday. Anyone from the community is welcome to come and buy. The auction will start at 8:30 a.m.
Oh, a really interesting trio at the top of this class. Very, very different types and kinds up here. I guess the one that probably as the class went on, the young man suits me the best. I think this one just genuinely is the widest constructed, biggest backed one, and yet she does it relatively in a neat type of package. And she's very, very good in terms of her structure. When she actually got out and wanted to move, it kind of solidified it for me in the way she gets out and uses just her athleticism off of both ends. The young ladies doe that comes in second. Here's the one for me that when they hit the ring, I thought the one was one I could tie into. Really neat look. I think she's the best of the top trio in terms of just her neck and her head set and her head carriage. But with that, to make them that neat, once in a while we get them a little more upright in their blade, and she just doesn't tie in quite as high on the top side of her blade. And I think that kind of just throws off her whole balance there as she gets a little weaker right there behind her shoulder, maybe just not quite as level and stout out of her hip. But a very, very nice doe. That one that you really got to love that one when she gets on the move, the way she used her hock and her rear leg. The young lady's coming next, just in terms of overall body shape and mass, when you get right on top of them, I really like that one. She just doesn't balance up as well as the two ahead of her. She gets plainer and thicker about her head and neck, and that just translates back as she just not quite as smooth and attractive from the side, but a very, very good doe to be in third. The young lady's doe coming next, one that's really neat looking from the side, skinny, wild neck. She just wants to pinch right there behind her shoulder, doesn't open up into as big a just barrel rib shape is the three ahead of her, and that's kind of what sorts her down into fourth, but I like that one's balance. I like her look from the side. The red doe coming next, here's one that's really good in terms of her structure. She's good in terms of her overall outline, just run out of sheer power and mass when you're in that deep of waters with the ones ahead of her. Same can be said for the young man's coming next. Really like that one in terms of her structure. We set her into motion. She's very good, attractive in her look, That one we just is the narrowest, lightest muscle doe in the class. If we can stouten her up, then we can start to think about moving her up a spot or two. Very, very good class once again.
Coming into the ring now, we have class 4 of our junior does. In this class, we have Hayden Litweiler of Lime Creek Limelights, Bryn Litweiler of Lime Creek Limelights, Kennedy Long of Pekin FFA, Casey Sexton of Highland FFA, Parker Shalla of Lone Tree FFA. The results of class 3, we had first with a purple being exhibited by Trig Lee of Riverside Ramblers, second with a purple to Callie Brink of Washington Hustlers, third with a purple to Isabel Litweiler of Lime Creek Limelights. We have fourth with a blue to Sadie Brink of the Washington Hustlers, fifth with a blue to Crooked Creek, Leighton Lichty, and sixth with a blue to Graydon Wade of Horse and Pony Club. Many hands make light work to pack up and put away the fair. Fair cleanup begins at 8:30 on Saturday morning. Sign up in the extension office that morning to get jobs. All help is greatly appreciated.
I think the young man brings us one that jumps out and wins the class pretty easily. Really unique looking individual from the side. I like how just stout and rugged that one is in terms of her head and her horn set. And I think that just equates all the way down through her, from all the way down to the ground and all the way back. Highly presented, really sound one. Real logical place to start. I think just as easily the young man's doe here falls into second. I think that's the next one that's just the most complete in combining muscle and width and yet still balanced and attractive from the side. We just don't have the big wow factor pieces that we had in the doe ahead of her. The young lady's doe here in third, probably the best bodied one of the top trio in terms of just actually coming out in terms of her forerib and her body shape of being round and robust there. I like that about her. I think when we get off to the side is when she sorts into third. She gets a little shorter and plainer about her neck, a little bit longer about her blade. Just doesn't balance up and proportionate quite as well as the two ahead of her. Then we come into a pair of dapples. I think the young lady's kind of a little more paint type dapple there is one that's better balanced She's longer, she's leveler. I like that about her. I think she's actually rounder in terms of her rib shape, and that's what gets her into fourth. And then we round out the class. The young lady coming next, that one's probably as long and neat about her head and neck as anything in the class. But with that, I think she becomes the narrowest, kind of flattest one. And I think what kind of sorts her into the bottom over the other, or and not allowing her to get over the other one, is just the set to her rear pastern. We need to change that from a longevity standpoint in order to get her off the bottom. Again, very good class. Can you guys put your hands together for all those exhibitors?
Currently coming into the ring, we have our 5th class of junior does. In this class, we have Braden Clow, Gracie Hirschberger with 2 entries. The results from our class 4, we had first with a purple to Parker Shala of Lone Tree FFA, second with a blue to Hayden Litweiler of Lime Creek Limelights, third with a blue to Bryn Litweiler of the Lime Creek Limelights, fourth with a blue to Casey Sexton of the Highland FFA, and fifth with a blue to Kennedy Long of Pekin FFA. Following this class, we will have our junior championship drive.
Here in this class, I think an interesting trio, and they all bring class advantages to the table. I guess the one that probably just suits me the best is the young man's red doe here in the back. I think as you just study this one, she's just as elevated at the point of her shoulder, is tucked up in her chest floor. I think relative to her body type and stuff, she's still wide enough. I like that one better, I guess, from just kind of a weather perspective, generating potential. When you get right on top of that one just has more true shape and dimension down her top. I like that one probably just a notch better in terms of her actual body type as far as being rounder bodied and shallower. And then I think just one that, like I said, just probably the most complete one within the class. If you wanted to argue that the young ladies needs to win this class, I think there's some great debate there. That's the widest built, just the biggest bodied one. She's probably wider in terms of her pin set. For me, when we really get that one into motion, she just gets really round in the way she's built. She's rounded up in terms of the way she moves out of her shoulder. She gets laxed in her top, and then she wants to get rounder out of her hip, maybe not quite as athletic out of her hock. But in terms of width and just amount of sheer mass, that one probably holds the class advantage. The young man's here in third. This one where her advantage is probably just in her overall design. That one's probably the best up through her head and neck. I like that about her. She's the shortest in terms of her blade length, levelest down her top and out of her hip. So she has class advantages, but that is the narrowest, lightest muscled one within the class, and that's why I had to sort her down. Very, very good trio. Once again, put your hands together for those exhibitors.
The results of our fifth and final class of junior does, we had first with a blue to Gracie Hirschberger of the Lime Creek Live Wires, second with a blue to Gracie Hirschberger of the Lime Creek Live Wires, and third with a blue to Braden Clow of the Washington FFA. We're now going to have our junior championship drive. entering the ring for our championship drive for the junior doe, we have from Class 1, first place being exhibited by Sadie Brink of the Washington Hustlers. Second in that class, exhibited by Camden Robertson of the Lime Creek Limelights. From Class 2, first place being exhibited by Callie Brink of Washington Hustlers. Second by William Longbine of Highland FFA. From Class 3, first place being exhibited by Trig Lee of Riverside Ramblers. Second, Callie Brink, Washington Hustlers. From Class 4, first place being exhibited by Parker Shalla of Lone Tree FFA. And second place to Hayden Litweiler of the Lime Creek Limelights. And from Class 5, we had first place being exhibited by Gracie Hirschberger of the Lime Creek Livewires, and second place by Gracie Hirschberger of Lime Creek Livewires.
Really outstanding junior doe show here as we start into them to kind of go through and pick a top 5 to bring back for the overall later. We started off the show, that first class I thought was very good, one all the way down to the bottom of that. I think there was 7 in there. The young ladies that came out of that class I thought just kind of overwhelmed her contemporaries in terms of just roundness of body, muscle shape, and still having more than enough look and design to her. We followed her up with that red one as we talked in class. Really good designed, outlined one, just not quite stout enough and mature enough for today to compete with the class winner. That second class was awfully competitive at the top end between first and second. As we talked to them, I thought the doe that won that class did so just skeletally. I thought that one was more athletic and more genuine. Both ends of her skeleton. I think you get that one back out here. There's still some things about that one you really appreciate in terms of her structure, the look she gives you when you get her on the move and get her head picked up. Very nice doe. That second place one, as we mentioned, probably a little more just in terms of width right behind her shoulder, back to her loin edge. For me, just skeletally, she stored it down. I didn't think she was as athletic off of either end of her skeleton. We get into that middle class, and I thought that was probably as deep a class as we'd seen today. The doe that wins that class, here's one that the back 2/3 of that doe is extremely good. She's as round-bodied, as big touching as anything out here. I like them things about her, extremely big and square in terms of her pin set. If we're going to nitpick on her ever so slightly, as we mentioned there in class, I'd like to clean her right there in her chest plate from the side, just make her more unique and attractive up to her head and neck. But I think that doe does have some advantages within this drive when you just talk about sheer body shape and mass that she has. The doe that followed her in that class was one that just doesn't open up with quite as much spread and dimension. Doe that, for me, just didn't balance quite as well when we truly just get her on the lead through her shoulder and the way her neck attachment. But as I said, very deep class. The fourth class, a really unique individual to come out of that class in terms of just substance of feature. You like that about her, really hard touching. She progressively gets wider as we go back. Maybe, as I mentioned, in comparison to the does on either side of her, I'd like to change that one, believe it or not, in her forerib and right behind her shoulder. She wants to pinch more than maybe she looks from the outside, but I think that's being critical of a very good one. The doe on the other side of her that was second in class, I like that doe just for a very complete type of package. really no holes, but with that, there was no extra pieces that she possesses to get her up over the doe that won the class. And then we rounded out the show with the red doe. As I mentioned, I like that one's look from the side. I like her body type, maybe a little better than the doe in second. And hello? Oh, I thought she had more just genuine shape right behind her shoulder as she works down her top than the doe in second. That doe that was second in that class, she's wide, she's massive, probably offers a little more in terms of feature, just didn't have the actual muscle shape in her in overall design when we set her into motion. Very, very good lineup. Once again, congratulate all these kids, and we'll go out and select the top 5.
The results of our championship drive for the junior breeding doe. We had our champion being shown by Parker Shalla. His banner was sponsored by Tyler and Paige Garles family. We are at our reserve being exhibited by Trig Lee. Third and fourth being exhibited by Callie Brink. And fifth place by William Longbine. Coming into the ring now, we have our first class of yearling does. In this class, we have Sadie Brink, Riker Myers, Isabel Litweiler, Alex Conrad, Hallie Heisdorfer, Chloe Sexton, Isaiah Conrad, and Skylar Swift.
as we begin our yearling division here, the age doe division, I think kind of a nice pair here at the top end that are kind of a little different in their type and kind. The young ladies I prefer. I think when you just study kind of the breeding versatility and the big aspects of that one, very unique individual. That's the biggest back thing that we've had come through the ring. Extremely round and robust in her rib, giant pin set. Love all them things about her. Is she made the circle around here and actually wanted to relax and go. She's awfully good in terms of her structure. If you're going to critique on her, maybe compared to the doe in second, maybe like to just pick her up, add a little length to her cannon bone to get her up off the ground on her front end, maybe change her bite ever so slightly from a breeding standpoint. But I guess for me personally, that doesn't bother me too bad. The young lady's doe there in second. Probably as functional one is in the class in terms of just sound on her feet and legs. Love that about her. She does have that added elevation and extension through her front end that maybe the doe in first doesn't have. But with that, she just runs out of sheer power, roundness of rib and stuff in comparison, but a very, very good individual in her own right. The dapple doe to me falls most type or closely in type and kind of what we've been trying to pick. This one's good balance from the side in terms of her lines. I think she's rounder in terms of her rib than what we have in the class. Just don't have the overall added look and extension and cleanliness is the two right ahead of her. The young man's black-headed doe coming next. Is good in terms of her feet and legs as we've seen today. I like that about her, just her athleticism. But with that, I think that doe just runs out of sheer power and width, especially when you get your hands on her. Doesn't balance up quite as well as the dapple ahead of her in terms of her top line and levelness of hip. The paint doe coming next. Here's one, has some unique pieces about her. That one is really elevated through her front end. She's long, she's level on her top line, she's level out of her hip. And for as much upper rib shape as she has, I'd like to see a little more curve down low, drop her in her flank in order to get her to balance up better. She just wants to run the opposite direction from her chest floor back to her flank. The doe coming next probably is a little better there in terms of her underline than doe ahead of her. To me, that one doesn't balance up quite as well. She gets a little piece here in her top line, a little longer and steeper out of her hip. And just doesn't have the mass, once again, is a couple ahead of her. The young man's red doe coming next. Really, really good in terms of her overall rib shape. I like that about her. A doe that has some width about her. Again, like the doe ahead of her, just too plain from the side when we study her. From her nose all the way back to her tail, she's just not as proportionate and clean about her lines as some of the ones ahead of her. And then we round out the class with one that's a little bigger outline doe, probably leveler and better balanced than the two right ahead of her. Again, as we've kind of mentioned all day long, a doe that maybe just doesn't have the width and muscle it takes to compete with the does ahead of her. Once again, a very, very good class. They all deserve a big round of applause.
The results of our Class 1 of yearling does, we had first with a purple being exhibited by Isabel Litweiler of the Lime Creek Limelights, second with a purple to Sadie Brink of the Washington Hustlers, third with a blue to Hallie Heisdorfer of Dutch Creek Flyers, fourth with a blue to Riker Myers of Dutch Creek Flyers, fifth with a blue to Chloe Sexton of the Highland FFA, sixth with a blue to Skylar Swift of Lime Creek Limelights, seventh with a blue to Isaiah Conrad of the Lime Creek Livewires, and eighth with a blue to Alex Conrad of the Lime Creek Livewires. Currently coming into the ring, we have our second class of yearlings does. Following this class, we will have our selection of our champion or reserve champion yearling does. In this class, we have Kennedy Long, Kenna Robertson, Andy Smothers, Chloe Sexton, Lindsay Schneider, Mason Schneider, Braden Clow, Casey Sexton, and Eli Conrad. We do want to say thank you to KCTC for their generous gift to live stream all of our shows. The link that is listed in the show program, you can tune in for other shows this week. We appreciate their generous support. You can enjoy this show again by following the link at the top of the show program to see all of the previously recorded Washington County Exhibitor Fair livestock shows on the KCTC YouTube channel.
Really interesting class here, and I think this is one of them deals. If you pulled 10 judges out here, they'd probably play it. We'd all have them placed completely different, and I think it's just one of those classes where there's maybe not one that just jumps out and says, I need to win. But with that said, I think the young lady's kind of dapple-headed though there. I used a win. Just does the most things correct. I like that one when we set her into motion as far as staying collected. I think she is one that we get off the side, still is in the top end in terms of balance. And then when you get your hands on her, I think that's probably where she solidifies it for me. I think that one just is genuinely the widest behind her shoulder, frees it all the way back. I think just a really nice place, maybe a logical place in my mind to go ahead and land. The young lady's black doe here in second. This one is wilder and neater looking from the side. In terms of her front end, she's a little bit wider right there at the base of her chest. More unique and cleaner about her head and neck. I like that about her. I think maybe just one that doesn't open up quite on the backside of her shoulder with as much. And then when we set her in the motion, in comparison to our class winner, she's a notch longer bladed, maybe just not as neat about the way she's constructed right there in her shoulder on the move. The paint dough coming next. Here's one that I think is just awfully complete, really functional type of dough. She just lacks any class advantage, and that's what sorted her into third. She's super in terms of her design and her structure. She's adequate in terms of her muscle, just maybe lacks that one big piece it takes to get up over the two ahead of her. The young lady's coming next. Here's one that's long. She's level, extremely stout when you study her in terms of her head, her horn set, and I think that equates all the way through. For me, though, when we just study kind of balance and the way that one's built, especially when we set her into motion, she's just not near as athletic as the three we find right ahead of her. The young man's dough coming next is kind of the outlier of the class. That one's the stoutest, biggest featured one out here. I like that about her. I think she opens up with plenty of dimension and shape down her top side. For me, as we study that one, though, I think that one just genuinely, maybe not quite as much width, is a couple up ahead of her. And then from a skeletal standpoint, she's the most rigid in the way she's built in her shoulder, her front knee, not as just comfortable the way she gets out and uses her hock. So from a structural standpoint, to me, I sorted her down in class. The young lady's dough coming next. Here's one that, in terms of body shape, is as good as any in the class. That one's probably as barrel-shaped in terms of her rib design as anything, as I said, in the class. For me, just we lack a little bit of top shape in her for where she's at condition-wise. And then from a balance standpoint, again, I think that one gets more open in her shoulder, plainer about her head and neck, and she's probably the steepest out of her hip that we had in the top end of that class. The young man's dough coming next probably has the advantage there in terms of just length and stuff out of her hip over the one right ahead of her. Probably a little better in the way she transitions from her neck into her shoulder right there over her rack. For me, that one just doesn't balance up. She's a little bit older and just not near as neat up to her head and neck. And she lacks muscle when we get her hands right on top of her in order to get her up off the bottom. The young lady's red dough coming next. Here's one, too. I love the body shape in that one. Very good. She's sound in terms of her feet and legs. Again, just from a muscle and balance standpoint, she works her way down. That one's proportions just aren't quite as good. She has some length in neck, but in relation to her body length and her hip length, it just doesn't fit together quite as well. And then we round out the class with one, again, it sounded like a broken record. This one sorted her way down, especially when I get right here at the three-quarter view. I think that one's just the flattest and plainest in terms of her muscle shape that we had in the class, and that's what sorted her down for me. Again, very, very interesting class, a tough one to sort. Those kids all deserve a big round of applause.
The results of Class 2 of yearling does, we had first with a blue going to Andy Smothers of Green Acres, second with a blue to Kennedy Long of Pekin FFA, third with a blue to Kenna Robertson of Lime Creek Limelights, fourth with a blue to Casey Sexton of Highland FFA, fifth with a blue to Braden Clow of Washington FFA, sixth with a blue to Chloe Sexton of Highland FFA, seventh with a blue to Eli Conrad of Lime Creek Livewires, eighth with a blue to Lindsay Schneider of Green Acres, ninth with a blue to Mason Schneider of Green Acres. Next, coming into the ring, we will be selecting our champion yearling doe. From Class 1, we had our first place being exhibited by Isabel Litweiler of the Lime Creek Limelights. Our second place in that class exhibited by Sadie Brink of the Washington Hustlers. From Class 2, first place being exhibited by Andy Smothers of Green Acres, and second place by Kennedy Long of Pekin FFA.
as we bring our yearlings back out to make our championship selection. Nice group, a good amount of yearlings. Kudos to all the kids and exhibitors for sticking with the project, working with them this long. It really shows a testament to just their dedication to their project. As we get our two classes out here, I think definitely some differences in type and kinds. The first class, as we mentioned, doe that came out of that, just in terms of just sheer power and body shape, pin width, that one really excels out here. Like that about her. Maybe from a design standpoint, as we said, we can tidy her up, make her a little taller at the point of her shoulder. But I think just her overall design and balance kind of matches the amount of power and stuff that she has. The doe that was second to her in her class, as we said, probably is a little bit a compliment to the class winner. That one is the good looking, good outlined one. Sound in terms of her feet and legs. Just didn't have the power and condition on her that we had in the class winner. And then we moved into that second class, a set of does that are a little bigger outline, still balance up relatively well. They have some muscle and some width about them. Maybe not the look that the ones right in front of them have, but I think a good set that complement each other as well. For me, though, I think the pair that just have more quality about them, we're going to keep the two out of the first class together as your champion and reserve.
The results of our champion yearling breeding doe class, we had our champion being exhibited by Isabel Litweiler. Her banner was sponsored by Kyoto Veterinary Clinic, and our reserve was exhibited by Sadie Brink. Those will need to come back into the ring. They will come back in for the overall breeding doe championship drive. Just a reminder, if you are parked on the south side of the track, there are about 10 vehicles that need to be moved at this time from that area. So if you are parked on the south side of the track, your vehicle needs to be moved by 4:30. So if you are in that area, please move your vehicle. Currently in the ring, we have our one class of senior does. In this class, we have Aiden Anderson, Chloe Sexton, Casey Sexton, Andy Smothers, and Aiden Anderson.
Here in our age doe division, the young lady brings us a doe that I think surfaces to the top rather quickly for me. That one's just really robust and stout in the way she's built and constructed, yet we get her on the lead. She still handles that well in terms of her feet and legs. I think just kind of for me personally, a real logical place to start. Then we kind of come into a trio of paints, particularly in second and third. I opted for the young lady's a little darker paint there. I think that one is just a little bit just more dimensional and width, a little better in terms of her condition than the two to follow. I think a really good outline, really tall fronted, extended one that's level in her build, just doesn't have the mass and overall substance is the doe that wins the class. The doe that comes next, of the young ladies, again, same kind of cut and mold as the doe right ahead of her, maybe just not quite as far along in her condition, and maybe that's because she raised twins instead of a single, but even so, I don't know if that one just opens up with quite as much shape behind her rack, or right there in her rack is the doe right ahead of her, but a very, very nice pair there in the middle. The young man's age doe, the paint here, I think a doe that gives you a good look from the side. She's long, she's level, she's right in her lines. I'd like to change that one's hock, especially when you step right in behind her, and just her stability from the top of her skeleton to the ground in order to use her over the two paints right ahead of her. But a very, very nice doe in her own right. And then we round out the class. The young man brings us a traditional marked one that you like a lot of things about. She's as good in terms of her rib design is the ones right ahead of her in terms of just outward curvature. For me, that one's balance is what sorts her down in this class. She gets just a little more unproportional up to her front end, and then out of her hip, she just gets really round and steep out of her hip. We need to change her there because it's kind of affecting the way she's using her hock. Very, very nice class again. Once again, these kids deserve a big round of applause for bringing these projects out.
The results of our senior doe class and championship drive. We had our champion being exhibited by Andy Smothers of Green Acres. The banner for that award is sponsored by Statler Construction Incorporated. Reserve champion was shown by Casey Sexton of Highland FFA. Third with a blue to Chloe Sexton of Highland FFA. Fourth with a blue to Aiden Anderson of Lime Creek Livewires. And fifth with a blue to Aiden Anderson of Lime Creek Livewires. We will now be selecting our top 5 overall breeding meat does. Coming back in the ring, we will have our top 5 from the junior breeding doe division. From that class, that division, we had our champion being exhibited by Parker Shalla, reserve by Trig Lee, third place by Callie Brink, fourth place by Callie Brink, and fifth place by William Longbine. From our champion yearling breeding meat doe division, we had our champion being exhibited by Isabel Litweiler, and our reserve champion by Sadie Brink. In our senior doe division, we had our champion exhibited by Andy Smothers and our reserve champion by Casey Sexton. Our overall champion breeding meat doe will receive a banner sponsored by Farmers Elevator and Exchange, and another banner sponsored by Black Diamond Boar Goats. The reserve champion will be receiving a banner sponsored by Art and Sherry Sweeting. Third place overall banner is sponsored by Double K Farms. Fourth place overall banner is sponsored by Tyler and Paige Garles, as is the fifth place overall banner is also sponsored by Tyler and Paige Garles. Just another reminder, if you are parked south of the track, you need need to move your vehicle by 4:30. They are trying to get ready for tonight's tractor pull and need those vehicles moved. We will also remind you that immediately following the goat show today, there will be a Clover Kids goat show. Clover Kid participants have been mentored by goat showmen to learn more about the goat species. Stick around and see the next generation getting involved in this department.
It's been a really, really good doe show. I think Washington County should be really proud of what's represented out here in terms of just their doe show and the quality we saw throughout the show today. It will rival the best counties out there here at the top end. We started off the show in that junior division, and I thought as we walked down through there, 5 really, really high quality does that I think are all in the conversation here is we pick a top 5. And I thought the doe that won that deal, in just terms of just how a show doe should be built and look from the side, that one is extremely good in terms of just the way she's put together, the way she's presented, all very, very good. We nitpicked her on there in division, and I think that's still a question mark, but I don't think it's a big enough one to really criticize her for. As we came into that yearling division, I think that doe is the other one out here that's in contention really for the top 5 to depending on what showdowns they go to. Here's a doe, honestly, in terms of her body and muscle shape, is as good as anything we've seen throughout the day. If you get your chance to get your hands on that one's back shape is massive, massive, round ribbed, awesome in her forerib. Maybe as we compare, to the junior doe and stuff, you got to ask yourself, is there just enough extension and look up through the front end? That doe is kind of fighting her a little bit on the chain, wanting to pull down into herself. When you get her in motion, you get a little better read out of her front end. Very, very good, highly competitive. Put your hands together and we'll select you a top 5.
So for our overall breeding meat doe, our champion was exhibited by Parker Shalla, our reserve by Trig Lee, our third place by Isabel Litweiler, fourth place by Callie Brink, fifth place by Callie Brink. We are going to wait to take photos at the end with the judge. So if you are one of those top 5, we will take photos at the end of the show. We're going to try to move into our market show to try to keep these animals cool. We are now getting started with our first class in the Market Meat Goat Show. In this class, we have Casey Sexton, Teague Pepper, Hattie Longbine, and Ryder Vitito. I do want to remind you that Hills Bank is taking photos of exhibitors in the ring. So please make sure that you go to get those photos picked up. But Hills Bank is taking photos of our exhibitors who are out in the ring today.
As we kick off our market show, this young man brings us a red-legged one. I think just kind of the show go to the class. He's the stout, boxy built one. He wedges the right way. I think just a real logical place to start. The young man's doe coming there in second. Here, I do like some things about that one's head and neck extension. Very good. I like how trim and just expressive that one is in terms of her muscle. I think her design and muscle is what sorts her over the weather there in third. The young ladies cape fronted weather there in third. Here's one that touches back nice. When you get your hands on him, I like that. He's expressive out of his hip. I think he's flatter in terms of his rib shape than the top two. Maybe doesn't just set to the surface with as much bone and footwork as the two above him, but a very, very nice goat in his own right. And then we round out the class. The young lady brings us a nice one. She's doing a great job of getting that one shown and stuck. When you get your hands on that one, he just sorts forth in terms of overall muscle and density, but a very, very nice class from top to bottom. Again, can we give those kids all a big round of applause?
The results of our Class 1 of Market Meat Goats, we have first with a purple going to Teak Pepper of Waco FFA, second with a blue to Ryder Vidito of Franklin Cubs, third with a blue to Hattie Longbine of Franklin Cubs, fourth with a blue to Casey Sexton of Highland FFA. Next coming into the ring, we'll have our second class of Market Meat Goats. In this class, we have Brooklyn Schneider, Brett McDowell, William Longbine, Brett McDowell, Tatum Flynn, Leighton Lichty, Lindsay Schneider, Sadie Brink, Just as a reminder, if you are parked on the south side of the track, your vehicle needs to be moved here in the next 5 minutes. If you are parked on the south side of the track, they would like your vehicle moved in the next 5 minutes. We do want to say thank you to KCTC for their generous gift of live streaming all the shows. The link that is listed on the show program, so you can tune in for other shows this week. We appreciate their generous support. Families and friends get to enjoy the fair through the videos. If you would like to enjoy this show again by following the link in your show program, you can see all of the previously recorded Washington County Exhibitor Fair livestock shows on the KCTC YouTube channel.
Nice trio. Nice trio here at the top end. Three very contrasting type of goats here at the top end. The young ladies, the blonde-headed one, is the one that just suits me the best. Maybe in terms of just type and kind that we're going to look for. That one is explosive in terms of the shape behind his shoulder. I like that. He progressively gets wider. You set him behind him. He's easily the biggest pin, one with the most turn and dimension down into his leg. And I think as we get him on the move, he's as athletic off both ends of his skeleton as anybody. Maybe at times when we get him bracing hard, you'd maybe like to just change his underline ever so slightly. But I think in relation to where we're at from a weight and maturity standpoint, it's more than suitable. The young lady's weather coming next. Probably is one that when you get right in front of him, offers a little more genuine width to his chest floor. I like that about him. He's longer, neater about his front end. But from there back, I think when you get your hands on him, though he's really expressive and stuff, I think he gets flatter in terms of his forerib. And then when we set him into motion, he wants to run downhill and get a little steeper out of his hip. The weather coming here in third has some really unique pieces about him that you gravitate and you want to like. I think that one, in terms of just his width throughout, He does it and he maintains it. For me, as we just sit back and study that goat in terms of his proportions, I think he's shorter sided, a little deeper body. He too, like the weather right ahead of him, is a little steeper out of his hip. And then for me, a goat this weight, when you get your hands on him, right there behind his shoulder, though there's expression, he's carrying a little more condition than the ones ahead of him, and he doesn't have the dimension as the two right ahead of him. But a very, very good goat to be in third. The young lady's paint doe coming, or goat coming next. Here's one that offers more length. He's leveler out of his hip than the two ahead of him. I think that one actually touches back with quite a bit of expression down his top. Maybe hasn't just fully matured into his muscle, but I like a lot of things about him. I think when you just sit back and analyze him, he's not near as neat just in his overall look. And then when we get right into the 3/4, we just got to give that one a little more in terms of his britches in order to get him up over the three ahead of him. The two weathers coming next probably read with more shape, out of their hip and down into their lower leg than the paint right ahead of him. Those goats aren't quite as wide, and when you get right in your hands on them, they just don't open up with as much dimension as that paint weather down their top side. I thought the young man's here just a little bit leveler and neater out of its hip than the weather that follows him, but two very, very similar goats. The young man's dark-headed weather there coming next. Here's one that's big outlined. He's really stout featured. I like all them things about him. I think at the end of the day, kind of where we're at for weight-wise and stuff, he lacks shape when you get your hands on him. And then I think that goat's just a notch narrower built in terms from the top side of his skeleton to the ground than the weathers ahead of him. We round out the class. The young lady brings us a really nice, functional, practical type of a dapple weather. I like that one's balance. I like his structure. We just don't have enough true market animal shape in that one to get him up off the bottom. Very, very nice class once again.
Coming into the ring now, we have our third class of market meat goats. In this class, we have Cole Troyer, Cooper Schneider, Cameron Long, Hadley Lichty, Callie Brink, and Kinsey Thomas. The results of our class 2. We had a purple with first going to Tatum Flynn of Dutch Creek Flyers. Second with a purple going to Sadie Brink of the Washington Hustlers. Third with a purple to William Longbine of Highland FFA. Fourth with a blue to Lindsay Schneider, Green Acres. Fifth with a blue to Brett McDowell of Mid Prairie FFA. Sixth with a blue to Brett McDowell of Mid Prairie FFA. Seventh with a blue to Leighton Lichty of Crooked Creek.
interesting pair here at the top of the class to sort through. Some differences between them two. I prefer the young man's. I think this one, just in terms of sheer shape, the dimension of muscle, I like that one, or prefer that one more. I think with that, he balances up better. He's a little shorter, neater about his blade, and you study him out of his hip. From hooks to pins, I think he's just wider and fuller there, and you can see that when you get to this angle right here. There's just a lot more to that one in terms of the turn to his muscle, in his hip and down into his rear lower leg. The young ladies, whether they're in second, probably is the best touching one within this class, the freshest down his top. He has the most shape and dimension right on the backside. But I think from there he kind of plays out as he goes back. He wants to pinch from hooks to pins, get a little bit steeper. If we can just stouten him up there, I think then that pair gets a lot closer. The young man's red weather coming next, probably as good in terms of his body shape, is either the top two. I like that about him. I think he's level, he's flexible, just doesn't have the show ring balance as the two ahead of him. And then when you get your hands right on top of him and handle that one, he's just not as square and firm to the touch. The young man's weather coming next. Good outlined one. I like that one when he gets him propped up from the side, his added extension, his length, his levelness. Again, you put your hands on that one, he plays out and can't get up over the top three in the class. The young ladies' weather coming next probably offers a little more in terms of expression and dimension of muscle, but I think that one gets a little bit narrower in his overall build. And with that, I think he gets deeper sided and plainer from the side in terms of his overall build and look. And then we round out the class with maybe the biggest footed one in the class. I like that about him. That one falls out of contention for me just in terms of his overall balance. And then when I put my hands on him, he's the softest for this stage of the game. We need to firm him up, give him a little more true muscle shape. Very, very nice job to all those kids.
Coming into the ring next, we'll have class 4 of our Market Meat Goat show. In the ring for this class, we'll have Trig Lee, Niall Longbine, Chloe Sexton, Toby Flynn, Allie Smothers, Paige Malichki, and Kennedy Long. Our results from class 3, we had first with a blue going to Cooper Schneider of Highland FFA. Second with a blue to Callie Brink of Washington Hustlers. Third with a blue to Cameron Long of the 76 Progressives. Fourth with a blue to Cole Troyer of Lime Creek Livewires. Fifth with a blue to Kinsey Thomas of Washington FFA. And sixth with a blue to Hadley Lichty of Crooked Creek. We do have a graduating senior out in the ring at this time. So we have Paige Malichki, who is one of our seniors. She's in the gray polo. The polos are sponsored by Whittoff Farm Supply. Washington County 4-H wants to congratulate her and on graduation and thank her and her family for their years of working with us. We do want to recognize and thank Federation Bank for their sponsorship of the 4-H and FFA t-shirts for every member this year. We also want to say thank you to our superintendent, Vicki Fisher. We also want to say thank you to those who are helping with check-in and weigh-in and all of the things that happen throughout the year, all those volunteers, because there's a lot of hard work that's put in the background.
For me, this class kind of falls together fairly easily. The young man brings this one out here. I think you can see just the heavy muscled go to the class. Like a lot of things about that one. I think from there, there's maybe questions from second down to third. The young man does such a great job of just getting that one to drive. He gives you a great look. I think there's some width, some roundness of his body. I like that goat to fall into second. The goat coming in third, another one you really got to appreciate. That young lady does a great job of getting that one propped up, gives you a real level look from the side. I don't think he opens up with quite as much dimension down his top, and I'd like to change him in his rear pasterns in order to get him up. He wants to really get down in those, but I think a good goat in his own right that the young lady does a really good job of getting presented to us. The young lady coming next, this goat surprises you when you get your hands on him. He's expressive. He has some dimension. I think as you study that one at times, he wants to get a little looser in the way he's built. Maybe just doesn't have the dimension and shape out of his hip. A little that might be you're just not getting quite as much drive out of him as a couple of the kids above you. The young lady's goat coming next. Another one that's big, stout. He's got some width. Again, maybe one that just doesn't touch back quite fresh enough down his top side with as much dimension to get him up over them four ahead of him. But a good goat in his own right. The black goat coming next. Another one. He's long. He's lean. He's trim. I like them things about him. He touches back with some expression. I think when he's set right in behind that one, though, he just doesn't open up. He's the narrowest in terms of his pins of what we talked so far. Just doesn't have as much just true market animal shape as what was ahead of him. And then we round out the class again. Young man did a great job with this project. He got him to gain. He's good structured. He balances up relatively well. We just don't have enough of that goat in terms of sheer muscle in order to get him up off the bottom. But once again, very good class with a really nice goat at the top end.
Coming into the ring now, we have class 5 of our Market Meat Goat Show. In this class, we have Kale Schneider, Mason Schneider, Tatum Flynn, and Piper Milichki.
Here in this class, similar to the last class, I think there's a goat that's out here to win the class and does so pretty handily. Ginormous in terms of his top shape. When she gets him pushing and presented, he really pulls himself together. A lot of things you like about that one, especially just from a market goat standpoint. The questions kind of come as we work our way down from second to third. I think maybe the young lady's traditional mark there in second. This one's rounder, neater about his rib shape. I think he just opens up with just more sheer mass and power right on the backside of his shoulder, and that's what allows him to get into second. The young man's paint goat coming there gives you a good look from the side. I like some things about him. Like I just said, maybe just compared them two above him. We just need to just make him stouter right there on the back side of his shoulder. And then we round out the class. The young man brought us a doe kid. If you've ever been around the doe kids, you know, when we start getting them to this weight, they start to mature. They just lose a lot of their natural muscle shape. And when you get your hands on that, you can start to see her maturity come into effect. But a very, very nice class. Once again, can we all go ahead and congratulate those exhibitors?
The results of our Class 5, we had first with a purple going to Tatum Flynn of Dutch Creek Flyers, second with a blue to Piper Malichki of Green Acres, third with a blue to Mason Schneider of Green Acres, fourth with a blue to Cale Schneider of Franklin Cubs. We are now having our sixth and final class of market meat goats coming into the ring. Coming into the ring, we have Cooper Schneider, Allie Smothers, Callie Brink, Parker Long, and Cale Schneider.
Here as we get in the heavyweight class, this young lady brings us a really nice goat to go ahead and win the class. Great looking, great touching for that size. Once again, I won't go into detail, just a real logical place to start. I thought from there the red-legged goat of the young gentleman's coming next. Just followed suit. That one is trimmer, he's leaner, he's more expressive than the goats to follow him. Maybe just doesn't have the look and the true freshness is the goat right ahead of him, but just a really logical second. The decision of the class kind of for me came between third and fourth here. The young man with the spot-backed one, he's just wider. He's bolder on the backside of his shoulder, square at his loin edge. I think he's wider in terms of his pin set. I'd like to lean him up in terms of his condition in order to get him to compete with the one right ahead of him. But I think a nice goat that offers some genuine width and muscle. The young lady's weather coming next, probably a little more expressive, a little more ideal in his condition than the weather right ahead of him. We just need to stouten him up in terms of his top shape in order to get him up any higher. And then we round out the class with the young man's red goat. As you can kind of see from here, he's just the flattest in terms of his rib shape, the flattest in terms of his muscle shape. Good balance, sound structure type of a goat that's leaner than the two ahead of him. We just need to have more muscle in that goat. Once again, great class. Put your hands together for those 5 exhibitors.
The results of Class 6, we had first with a purple being exhibited by Callie Brink of Washington Hustlers. Second with a blue to Cooper Schneider of Highland FFA. Third with a blue to Parker Long of 76 Progressives. Fourth with a blue to Allie Smothers of Green Acres. Fifth with a blue to Cale Schneider of Franklin Cubs. We are now going to have our championship drive to select the top 5 overall market meat goats. Following that, we will need our top 10 exhibitors for rate of gain. We will need Allie Smothers, Toby Flynn, Cale Miller, Piper Malichki, Paige Malichki, Parker Long, Cameron Long, Kennedy Long, and Tatum Flynn to come to the show ring following the selection of our top 5. We also will be starting with senior showmanship following our rate of gain recognition. Coming into the ring, we had from Class 1, we have Teague Pepper from Waco FFA. And we have Ryder Vidito of the Franklin Cubs. From Class 2, we had Tatum Flynn with the Dutch Creek Flyers and Sadie Brink of the Washington Hustlers. From Class 3, we had first being exhibited by Cooper Schneider of Highland FFA and second by Callie Brink of the Washington Hustlers. From Class 4, we had first place being exhibited by Trig Lee of Riverside Ramblers and second by Niall Longvine of Highland FFA. From Class 5, first place being exhibited by Tatum Flynn of Dutch Creek Flyers and second place by Piper Malichki of Green Acres. From Class 6, first place being exhibited by Callie Brink of Washington Hustlers and second place by Cooper Schneider of Highland FFA. The champion will be receiving awards sponsored by Farmers Electric and Exchange and a banner by CBI Bank and Trust. Reserve champion will receive a banner sponsored by Mike and Bev Black. Third place overall will receive a banner sponsored by the Ferrier family. Fourth place And fifth place, their banners are sponsored by Tyler and Paige Garles. We also have in the ring from also in the ring for our crossbred weather, our second place, Toby Flynn. And from our dairy goat weather class, we have Bo Marcingill.
It's been fun to get the privilege to come down here and sort through the goats. I think a very competitive show once again. A few more classes in here. Not the biggest classes, but I thought the depth was good from top to bottom. We get our class winners out here. I really like this lineup that we have out here. I think, as we start to sort through them, there's probably 5 for me that kind of surface to the top. We'll just go through and kind of just talk the ones that are in contention this round. I think we started off the day with that red-legged weather. I think this one, he's moderate, he's boxy, he's dense. I like a lot of things about him. He's good in terms of his structure. Today, I think his better days are still ahead of him. He's still green and immature. I think maybe compared to a couple other ones, we could reshape his head and stuff just to make him, for that size and stuff, just be a little more attractive from the side. The young lady's blonde weather coming next. One of the more intriguing ones in the entire lineup when you just evaluate sheer density and muscle mass in relation to weight. Pound for pound, that one handles as good as his lean and everything. Maybe compared to 1 or 2 of the other ones out here, maybe just not quite as well balanced at times. I like that one through his front 2/3. As I mentioned there in class, you could drop him in his flank ever so slightly, maybe just level him out of his hip ever so slightly, but a very, very good goat that I think is in contention. From there, the young man out of that next class, really muscular, expressive type of weather. I like all them things about that one. He's big pinned. He's really bubbly in terms of his muscle shape. For me, maybe just doesn't have them extra bells and whistles that the goats on either side of him have. We get into that 4th class, maybe one that's a true outlier, maybe in terms of just one that when he gets him propped up, combines a lot of the wow factors of look and still has a lot of muscle about him. I won't pick on him too much. I think that goat does have his issues in terms of skeletally, especially when we send him on the move. But I think that's a very, very unique, really good type of a goat. The weather out that second to last class, if you get your hands on them and you really ain't handled goats too often, put your hands on that one's top shape. Is it impressive as any goat we've seen today? From the backside of his blade to the squareness of his loin edge, he has as much marked animal shape as any of them out here. Maybe in comparison to a couple others in the lineup, we could sure just make him more youthful about his head and neck. And he wasn't blessed with the leg hair a couple of the other ones have. I promise you change that one, the backside of his back leg, give him a little more fin. That one's in contention with the best of them out here. And then the goat that rounds out that last class, really good outline, good looking type of goat, great in his body shape. fresh for that size. Again, maybe compared to a couple other ones, just down through the lower third of his body, we could give him a shot more, but I think one that's definitely in contention as well. Very, very nice show. Again, let's go ahead and congratulate all these exhibitors for making the grand drive.
We will be recognizing rate of gain, the top 10. So we will need to have the following exhibitors come into the show ring as soon as we can. We need Allie Smothers, Toby Flynn, Kale Miller, Piper Malichki, Paige Malichki, Parker Long, Cameron Long, Kennedy Long, and Tatum Flynn. Our results for our overall market meat goat, we had our champion exhibited by Trig Lee, our reserve by Tatum Flynn, third place by Tatum Flynn, fourth place by Callie Brank, fifth place by Teague Pepper. We're now going to recognize our top 10 rate of gain. 10th place, we have Tatum Flynn. 9th place, we have Kennedy Long. You just want to step out when I say your names. 8th place, we have Cameron Long. 7th place, a tie for 7th, we have Parker Long and Kale Miller. 6th place, we have Tobias Flynn. 5th place, we have Paige Malichki. 4th place, we have Allie Smothers. We have a tie for 3rd, we have Kale Miller and Piper Malichki. 2nd place, we have Toby Flynn. And 1st place to Allie Smothers. Let's give all of these a round of applause. We are going to get started today with our senior showmanship. Then we will move to intermediate and then junior.